Picture in your mind the Earth 400 million years ago. Part of the Earth was covered with muck and ooze. There were no flowers, as you can see from this recently discovered photograph. Slowly, tiny cells arose in vats of warm, slimy mud, the soup of creation. Millions of years flashed by. The cold, monotonous green of plant life, with no variety of color, crawled forth. Gradually, over tens of millions of years, forests of ferns and trees covered the land. Little spawls developed on the surface of leaves, little spores, or at the end of short stalks. When it was time to pollinate, they would fall into the streams. They would float randomly in the water. And over millions of years, these tiny spores emerged from the soup of creation. They found their way through the dew and the raindrops. They hardened, the wind carried them, and they spread an incredible revolution. Trees grew and developed cones to protect the seeds. When it was time to pollinate the seeds, they traveled randomly in the air over hills and valleys. It was gray, brown, black, green, but no explosions of color. But sometime, now we're still working on the exact date, sometime between 140 and 250 million years ago, a time when the planet was warmer and richer with oxygen than today, plants' leaves started to create scents, smells, sugars, and colors to attract insects that would effectively transfer their pollen. And the first flowers started to appear. Now, over time, the world was transformed into strange colors that produced tantalizing nectars and pollens. With the help of insects, the age of flowers started. Evolution suddenly transformed the world into a panoply of strange colors that produced the tantalizing nectars and pollens. To better reach the flowers, insects evolved wings. Over time, specialized groups of insects and birds arose to feed on the flowering plants. As they pollinated the seeds, the flowers bloomed in spectacular varieties. Some were night flowers intended to lure moths in the evening. Some were flaming red in the light of noon. Hummingbirds evolved different beak sizes to go with certain types of flowers. Around 225 million years ago, the first true mammals began to appear, perhaps around the time of the arrival of flowers. Our ancestors were mossy little creatures, eating bugs and plants with seeds. There was no Adam, no Eve. They were encased in a rat-like body. Over millions of years, flowering plants evolved to take advantage of mammals After the flowers were pollinated by insects, the flowers grew into fruit with seeds in the middle, and the mammals ate the fruit. The fruit gave us a good source of energy. At first, our mammal ancestors could only see in black and white. However, over time, we evolved to be sensitive to color. Then, it was easier to see the fruit and tell if it was ripe. The flowering fruit gave us a good source of energy. We could trace the evolution of our hands back 70 million years with small ancestors that lived on the ground and evolved hands so they could climb trees and harvest the fruit that the flowers produced. Our brains got bigger. Leaves, if we just eat leaves, the nutrients are locked up behind thick cell walls, and breaking down those barriers, it takes a lot of energy and time for our bodies to do. Primates that eat leaves have to lie around for hours resting, with all their energy going towards digestion. Eating fruit, on the other hand, offers us a jolt of calories, an easy-to-digest package. The main beneficiary of all that newly available energy is our brains. Today, in our bodies, there's a strong affinity for flowering plants of the earth. We evolved to feel intense joy at the sight of bright, colorful flowers because they are a source of food that helps make our survival possible. In flowers, we see the miracle of growth, the exhilaration of bloom, the excitement of color, the fulfillment of ripening. We enjoy the smell, the feel, the shape, and the color of the flower. We give flowers to our mothers as an expression of thanks, because mothers also make our life possible. In 1923, at the Unitarian Church in Prague, a minister created the first flower communion. Each member would bring a flower to church, where it was placed in a large central vase. At the end of the service, each would take home a different flower. This symbolized the uniqueness of each individual and the coming together in community to share this uniqueness. American Unitarian Universalist churches have adopted this annual spring flower celebration. So now I invite you to come forward and take one flower without making any distinction where it came from and whom it represents, to confess that we accept each other as brothers and sisters without regard to class, race, or other distinction, acknowledging everybody as a friend who is human and wants to do good. Let's have the